Hey, ladies. Good evening. Good evening. Hope everybody is doing well today. As you're coming in, please like the video for me. Please like the video. Tonight's topic is a tough one because, we're usually light and fun and things like that over here. But as I always tell you, when it comes to building your wealth, everything matters, and that includes race relations as well. So, last week, we had started the conversation, but the conversation turned out to be a lot more um, top level. And what I wanted to do in macro, and what I wanted to do last week was I wanted to have more of a micro conversation, how you and I actually navigate this quote unquote new normal, which is really the old normal. How do we navigate it on an individual basis? And I realized that there were so many things on my notes that I didn't get a chance to say. And this is not against God bless and Stephanie. They were definitely passionate. But it ended up, I had so many things that I wanted to impart to all of you that I said, listening to it again, and a few of you had mentioned in the comments that you wish I had said more of my thoughts. So I said, okay, I will come back then and I will actually do this. So I will not be putting the link in the chat today, but I will be reading all of your comments. So hello, first of all, to Dark and Lovely, and Computer and Coin, sorry, is in the building as well. So hello, ladies. Okay, so I got my notes here because I want to make sure that I am hitting all of my points because there's a lot that I want to talk about tonight. And again, this topic is for the upwardly mobile Black woman. So we are going to have the discussion with regards to our point of view, being upwardly mobile, number one, being Black and being women. So, I am not the type of person to come on and talk about white people and white supremacy and all of that. Yes, white supremacy exists. That's a systemic issue. But guess what? I, for the past 5 or 6 years, have been probably like many of you at some point in your life trying to figure out, hey, what can I do? Hey, what can I do? You know, and I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm like, you know what? I'm drained, all of that stuff. I am like, okay, how can I as an individual actually navigate through all of this? And I will say this, tonight's topic is not about Scott Adams. Tonight's topic is about you and I. Because the truth is Scott Adams is one person, he's an archetype. And that was another comment that came up in Thursday's chat, not in the chat, but in the comments was, why are we talking about this, blah, blah, blah. We're talking about it because there is a true shift that has happened that I noticed. And all of the other commentators that I saw talking about the Scott Adams thing, they either were harping on it from, I don't want to live around Black people either. These are Black people saying this, I don't want to live around Black people either. Or they were on the opposite end. How dare that racist, blah, blah, blah. And to me, the most important part of what Scott Adams said was in his last 2 minutes of talking about it. And then I went and read the comments. And then I went and read the comments of other people's videos. And I said, we missed it. We missed it. We missed the point. So tonight I'm actually going to take my time and I'm going to kind of build up to certain things with regards to this conversation. So D'Ambrosia's in the house and so is Selfish Love. Hello, ladies. Hello. Don't forget to like the video as you all are coming in. So mass media and social media is an issue. I had said that in my initial discussion with all of you. They've got their algorithms, they've got their things and agendas that they're pushing out. And we have to be cautious and careful with how we're engaging with certain things. There is a shift that has happened in Black America. And some of it we talked about on Thursday, with regards to how people are dealing with Black America. What was so revealing to me were two things. Number one, Lori Lightfoot losing in Chicago. Chicago has a major crime issue, and it has spilled from the Black community into the white community and the multicultural communities. It's hurting businesses, it's hurting individuals. There was a woman who said, white woman, lived in a quote unquote good area of Chicago, who said she saw two carjackings on her street uh, in the course of a couple of months. And you have two candidates that have won for the runoff in Chicago. You have the pro law and order candidate, a Latino man, and you have the pro program. We're going to put more resources into programs candidate, a Black man. I'm very interested in seeing who's going to win that, because that's going to be very telling. You also have what's happening in Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi, which I agree is unconstitutional, but part of the issue is the crime in the Black community is seeping over into other communities. And other communities feel like we as Black people, and I have to put myself in there as well as all of you. I know we don't want to take the L. We may say we didn't do anything personally, but when people see us until they know different, they're going to assume that we're in that bucket, right? So um, they're basically saying, well, you haven't done anything about it, so we're going to. We're going to. And we're going to see what happens in Mississippi. But if Mississippi in this HB 1020, I think it's called, passes, other, other states and other jurisdictions will follow. So I also think that it's important for us as Black women, upwardly mobile Black women, to play chess, not checkers right now. We can still win as individual women. We can still create groups and communities with other people, and we can win financially, we can win physically, we can win mentally, etc. But it is going to require us playing chess, not checkers, and it is going to require us aligning with the right people who can make us successful. So, what I want to do right now is I want to go back to the original Scott Adams interview. I'm going to play the part that everyone got riled up at. And then I'm going to play the part that I heard that I felt was a lot more important that I didn't hear people really talking about. Then we're going to listen to his interview with this man named Hotep Jesus. I hate saying that name, but that's his name of his channel. Never heard of the guy. But apparently, Hotep Jesus is a Black man, conservative, who did an interview with Scott Adams. And again, all of this is important because Scott Adams is an archetype of where we're headed in this country. And then, I have some other comments to say as well with regards to how we're going to be able to navigate this. So, everybody, again, don't forget to like the video. And I'm going to give an official fair use here as we are playing all of this. So, the first thing is we're going to look at a couple of things with the original video from Scott Adams. I'm going to play about a minute here.
What I have to say, this is the first political poll that ever changed my activities.
So this is the first political poll. This is a Rasmussen poll. Rasmussen, he later finds out, and other people agree, is a problematic organization. But I'm going to play this again. And unfortunately, he's saying that he's shifting in the way that he's going to relate to Black people. Let's listen to this. This is, again, the part that got everybody riled up.
This is the first political poll that ever changed my activities. I don't know that that's ever happened before. Normally you see a poll, you just look at it, and you go, whatever. Oh, this is interesting what other people think. But as of today, I'm going to re-identify as white because I don't want to be a member of a hate group. I'd accidentally joined a hate group. So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according.
Now, he misunderstood the poll. Apparently, the poll was that 21%, I think, I wish I had written it down again, said no, and 26% said, I'm not sure. And that could have been that they weren't sure of the question, what was being asked. So that's on him. He did not interpret the poll, in my opinion, correctly. But let's keep going.
To this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get
That sentence got everybody riled up. Understandably so. He shouldn't have said it like that, but let's keep going.
the fuck away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed. Right? This can't be fixed. You just have to escape.
Okay. So that was the first part of what he said. So let's see here. Oh, a lot of people have come in now. Hello, hello, J. Antoinette. Hello, Arena. Hello, Rana. Hello, Denise. Hello, Flowing Water. I don't think I've seen you before. Hello. Agreed, he is the face of a lot of the sentiment. He is. He is. And I don't want us to concentrate on Scott. I want us to concentrate on the sentiment that a lot of white and non-Black people are feeling right now. Um, Again, there's a major shift that's happening. Who is Scott Adams? Scott Adams was the creator of Dilbert, or is the creator of Dilbert, and he said some very problematic things. So we're going through some of the things that he said. Selfish Love is saying, I'm just a little confused because if he works with, quote, good Black people, then he should know there is good and bad. And he does clarify these things in the Hotep Jesus interview. So, then I was confused about him as identifying as Black. He talks about that in the Hotep Jesus interview as well. So we're going to hopefully listen to that. I had pulled a couple of parts out and then I didn't re-listen to them today. So I'm hoping that if he doesn't explain it in the parts we listen to, Selfish Love, I'll tell you why he identified as Black, which was a dumb reason, I have to admit. Thank you, Spy Pie. Hey, Stephanie. He interpreted it that way. He wanted to take the stance he needed to be anti-Black. I'm not going to put that on him, Stephanie. I'm not going to put that on him. So yeah, the re-identifying as white was kind of weird. Okay. So next thing that we want to do is I want to go here to 1901, because this was the part that really caused me to say, okay, I need to do a discussion on this. Because I haven't just heard him say it, I've heard a lot of non-Black people say this.
But the most helpful thing I can do is to say I'm not going to help. Do you understand that? Continuing to help in that sort of classic, oh, let me help you, give you a lift up, give you a hand, mentor you, hire you, prefer you. I'm going to stop all of that. I'm done with all of that. Yeah, no, it didn't work. The only thing that will work is to say you got to fix your own problem. You know how to do it. Everybody else figured it out. I'm not going to speculate, why you're not doing it. I'm not going to speculate why there's a difference. I'm just going to say it's available to everybody. You just pick it up. It's free money. Focus on education, and you could have a good life too. But those who don't want to focus on education, you just need to get away from them.
Okay, so that was the part that really perked my ears. The reason that part really perked my ears is because he said that he's not going to mentor you, hire you, refer you. He also said in that section that education is the most important thing. And one of the things, reading between the lines with what he is saying, is that, and this goes back to the Chicago thing, as well as some of the other elections and other news stories that I'm seeing right now. You know what? Baltimore is a better example. In my research on education, and I had discussed education and some of the issues with literacy and things like that a few weeks ago, I discovered that in Baltimore, they have been investing a lot of resources into the Baltimore students. The Baltimore students are getting more money per student than any others, than most other counties, right? However, I don't know if the resources are not getting to the students or what, but there are a lot of lawmakers right now that feel like the resources that are going into the community overall are not making a difference. And we have to take a step back without emotion and ask, is this true? And if so, how are they going to divert their resources? And some of you may say, Cherie, they're just gonna give it to themselves. They're anti-Black. I personally believe that they are going to start picking individuals. They're going to start mentoring, hiring, and referring individuals that they know, like, trust, and that you have presented yourself to them. That's going to be a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight. This is the trend that I'm seeing, not just with somebody like Scott Adams, but even the white people that I know just on the ground. When you actually allow them to open up, ask you questions, you ask them questions without the, I don't know why you talking to me about that. You need to educate yourself, but actually listening to them. They're saying, I'm really concerned about the Black community. Can I ask you some questions? Now, I don't allow anybody to talk in a derogatory manner about the Black community, but I do allow people to ask me questions about the Black community. Because number one, I want to know where their head is. And number two, it's because maybe I'm able to let them understand why certain things are happening. But a lot of the people I'm speaking with behind the scenes, a lot of the people in the comment section of Scott Adams' video and this Hotep Jesus and other people are all saying the same thing. They're saying, no, we're not going to help the collective, we'll help individually. We also have another big issue that's happening, ladies. We also have another big issue. Right now, the Supreme Court is trying to decide if they are going to continue using race-based admissions for places like Harvard and these other Ivy League schools. About a week ago, I put something in the community tab where I said that, well, I didn't say it, the article said it, that a great percentage, I think 32% of the richest people go to like 9 different schools. So people are trying to lock us out unless they know us personally. So what I'm wanted to say to you is that the playbook that we ran from I was born in mid 70s. So seeing my mother and grandmother in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s is not going to be the playbook that helps us win in 2023 and beyond. Yes, we know that affirmative action helped white women the most, but it did help some Black women. For example, there's a woman named Karen Hunter who is in journalism, and now she has a radio show on Sirius, and she's written books with a lot of famous people, including like Queen Latifah and others. She was an affirmative action hire. These things are going away. We are going to need, on a global basis, we're going to need to be able to compete. Now, see, the manosphere told us we needed to compete. They were right, we needed to compete, but we are going to need to compete for resources. We're going to need to compete for resources. We're going to need to compete for jobs and mentors and access to capital and access to all of these things that are going to get us to the next level, that are going to get us to the upward mobility that we're seeking. And in order to do that, we are going to need a network of non Black people around us. So I'm going to look at some of your comments here. Um, Saying, I mean, if we are being honest, a lot of Black people do see white people as mostly racist because they are to some degree. It's a complex issue being Black in America. I don't know if most white people are racist. I don't. I'm going to, well, I'll actually say it right now. I wrote down here that I think there are five groups of white people. The first are the rich and powerful. This is the systemic, capitalistic, Congress, the presidency, things like that. We can't do anything about that. I mean, there are some people who can, but I'm not Maxine Waters and those people. So on the ground, we just can't. The second group are your extremists. Can't do anything about that either. The third group of people that I have that are white people are your social justice warriors. There are some. Jane Elliott is a great example. There are others out there. Very, very few. The fourth group of people are the people who are indifferent. They are white. They don't dislike the Black community, but they're not trying to help either. I don't think those people are inherently racist. I just think that they are indifferent, meaning that they live in East Palestine or there's another train that just tipped over in, I think, Springfield, Ohio, or someplace like that. They got their own problems. I don't think they're inherently racist. That's just me. And then the fifth group is the pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I will help you if I see you doing something or if you're in my neighborhood or my vicinity, but I'm not really going out and pursuing, helping the Black community. A great example of that is my mother and I have a house here in rural America. We have fantastic neighbors, and they're white. And I think that a lot of people fit into that category. This is just me. I feel like a lot of people do. So, um, I mean, they have been moving away. That's why we use the law to equal some of the playing fields. True, there's white flight that happens, but we also have to be honest as well. We're going to be honest and like we moved into this neighborhood. We live all around white people. There's not been white flight here. But you will have white flight if people feel like there's unsavory elements coming into the neighborhood. So, yeah. We don't have problems. He's speaking as if we're supposed to be okay with anti-Blackness in America because this is playing into their plan of having us completely unemployed by 2050. Well, we don't have to fall into that. So, and the reading levels in Baltimore are awful. Yes. I've invested in Baltimore City, then used my public platform to tell investors not to. It's corrupt, and the people in schools are a direct reflection. Baltimore is bad. It's bad. I don't agree with that, Stephanie. I don't agree with that. He shouldn't have been trying to help someone because they were Black. He should help people and individuals who are deserving. I'm with you on this. Yeah. Yeah. Um, classic American racial discrimination against Black people. Yeah. So again, I think that there are 5 levels of white people out there. Um, pulled my resources once I saw what was up. Yeah. What I heard him saying is that he's aligning with those with education. I'm hearing him saying that they're aligning with Black women since Black women are not educating themselves. I don't necessarily agree with that last part. I think that your first part is right, that he's aligning with people. Education is one part of it, but with upwardly mobile Black people. Absolutely. Y'all saying a lot in here, so let me see here. Fine womanhood is in the building. You're saying here, yes, your category to legit. So that's how I look at it. I look at those 5 categories. And the truth is, I think the majority of white people are in the indifferent category, and that's fine. They're not here to help us, they're not here to hurt us. You know, they're living their own lives. They have other things that are happening. So, um, let's see here. The school system in Florida is horrible as well. Yeah, look, it's bad all over the place. It's bad all over the place. And some of that is on us. Some of that is on some of the Black parenting that we have going on. Some of it is cultural. Some of it is we didn't nip certain things in the bud when Dolores Tucker in the 90s told us that this rap music, we probably need to let this go. Some of it is the Al Sharptons and the people like that. There's a lot that's happened. Yes, absolutely. So, what I want to do now is I actually want to go to the Hotep Jesus interview because I want you to hear him explain a little bit more of what he was talking about with regards to his comments. So we're going to listen to 3 of these segments here. Buckle up. This is the man on the right hand side is Hotep Jesus, and he is a conservative. So you'll hear that seeping through this interview.
So let's talk about your statement. You began this conversation and called yourself an energy monster. Now, when I first saw your statement, I classified it as trolling. Some people may call it uh, 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 clout chasing. Maybe you're classifying this as being an energy monster or provocateur. Um, what is the goal of your statement? Was it to get people energetically charged up?
Well, is that what you call trolling? Getting
Sometimes
people just
it,
riled up?
it can be construed as that sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you a little secret about me. I never do something for one reason. So I wouldn't do it just for laughs.
Right.
I wouldn't do it just for clout.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly wouldn't do it for financial reasons. I don't know if you've heard, but the Dilbert's being canceled all over the country, and it's CNN is canceling me. I think TMZ was canceling me just before I got on. I think the biggest newspaper that carries me has already decided to cancel. I would be surprised if I'm in business a few days from now. So here's the things you can know it isn't. I wouldn't do it just for laughs. I mean, it isn't that funny. It's pretty funny, but it isn't that funny.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do it for money. I wouldn't do it for reputation. Why would I do it? Well, that's a question. Why would I do it?
I think you want to have the
Can
conversation.
you think of any other reason I would do it?
I think you wanted to
What?
have. I think you wanted to create room for the conversation.
I discovered that the price of free speech is really high. and there are only a few people willing to pay it. So I decided to pay it so that I could extend the conversation to something that everybody needs to hear. So let me set it up. You might want to play the quote first. Do you want to play a clip first or something to set it up?
Sure. Let me
No. So the clip will be provocative, and then I'll give you the context. Now, I should say, while we're waiting to listen to this, that all day long people were very mad at me. That's why the cancellations. But to the best of my knowledge, nobody's disagreed with the point I made.
Ladies, did you hear that? That people were mad with him, but nobody disagreed with him. Let's listen to that one more time.
That all day long people were very mad at me. That's why the cancellations. But to the best of my knowledge, nobody's disagreed with the point I made. And I keep asking if they disagree with the point, and they sort of avoid that question. There is some question about the data, which I agree with, the questionability, the questionableness of the data. I think that's a good point.
Okay, so I wanted to start off with that. He admits that the questionability of the data was bad, but he's also saying that he's talking to people, and he probably was talking to people who would normally disagree with him, and they're not disagreeing with him. Again, ladies, I think that all of this matters because this is how we're going to talk about navigating the the new normal, which is basically the old normal, is what I'm going to say. I want to also play another section for you here. You're saying, I'm not mad at him. I'm just waiting to see. Yeah. And it's not just about him. It is really about the shift. So, showing their cards and mindsets, that's why they're mad. Maya Angelou says, when people show you who they are, believe them. And I think that that is a very true statement in this case with regards to how we're navigating. You're saying here, Stephanie, I was saying is to be expected. We are not like this country. Everybody feels like we're supposed to have nothing and they have everything in the country that we built. I think that we can have, now I don't think we can get to the upper echelons, but I think that we can have something. I think that we can have homes. We can have 401ks. We can live comfortable lives. That's part of what I wanted to talk about tonight. Do I think I would ever get to the upper echelons? No. But I do think that we as Black women can have something in this country. I do. I do. I do think that it takes a certain mindset in order to get it and in order to keep it. But I do. All right. I want to go to the next part here. So he says some other stuff here, and let's come here to.
I have the world clarification.
Okay.
Clarification is this. I'm opposed to any form of discrimination against individuals. Not your neighbor, not the person applying for a job. Marry who you want, date who you want, friends who you want. I have no opinion on that, except everybody should be treated as individuals, period. And from a constitutional legal sense, everybody has to be treated the same, period. So those things I think everybody agrees on.
Yeah.
The second thing I said that was controversial, and I think some of the context got lost, is that if you're not in a constitutional legal sense and you're not talking to an individual, then for career maximization or life maximization, you might want to avoid people you think have a bad opinion of you. I'll give you some examples. If a man said to me, I've got a job offer, 2 places. One of them, it's a lot of men work there and I'm a man. And then another one where it seems like all the executives are women. So I got a suspicion that they wouldn't want to promote a man. So they asked my opinion. What would I say? I'd say, well, you don't know what all those women think. And certainly you shouldn't judge all of the women at this company by that pattern. But if your intuition is that they might not favor you as much as this other company, I would go where the discrimination worked in my favor. Here's another example. If a young Black person came to me and said, give me some life advice, I would say, don't go where you have the lowest risk, the lowest chance of succeeding. Go where you have the best chance. The best chance at the moment is you stay in school and try to get a job at a big Fortune 500 company that's trying to balance out their diversity. A very good goal. But that would put you at the top of the list, and you would automatically be, above all the white people applying for the same job if you have, similar qualifications. In the real world, people tend to have similar qualifications. I think people imagine that you can really tell who the good employee is going to be. Like, if you've ever hired, you can't do that. Nobody really knows. Like, within a similar band, you just don't know. So you're kind of guessing. Anyway, so that would be an example where a Black person should go where they have the biggest career advantage, which is, they would be discriminated in a positive way. If you were a Black man and asked me for advice, and you said, should I go work for a company in Cleveland or go somewhere where, not Cleveland, I guess, where there's a higher white percentage? Which would be your competitive advantage? If you go to Cleveland, it's 53% Black, the city is. So let's say you work for a company in Cleveland, presumably you would be competing against a lot of other Black people with similar qualifications. But if you go to another place where there are fewer Black people applying for the same jobs, you go to the top of the white pile automatically, because diversity is something every company wants, and they should. I'm in favor of this. By the way, I'm in favor of, and have always been in favor of, affirmative action. But I think you have to have a conversation at some point about how to phase it out. Because once things get close, but before everything is exactly equal, you end up having more bad will than positive benefit.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta be careful when you get that close. So I think we're in the neighborhood where we should have the conversation about, is it better for everybody to phase it out, or is there some places it's better to keep it?
Okay, I really wanted you to hear that last part about the affirmative action. So he said a lot in there. He talked about the fact that you want to go where you're going to get the greatest advantage and the greatest ability to maximize. I don't agree with some of the specific advice that he was giving with regards to, certain things. But that very last part that he talked about, the affirmative action, we see it now again with the Harvard um, and the Ivy League schools at SCOTUS. I think it's Harvard and Duke, against the Asian community. We are seeing where they seriously want to phase out these programs, and I think that they are going to be successful. So my whole point of tonight was to say that we're going to have to adjust the way that we're navigating. It's even not going to be enough for us to, and this is where I disagree with him, say, oh, this corporation doesn't have a lot of white people and I'm Black, so I'm going to apply over there because I would get to the top of the pile. That's not going to work anymore. That's not going to work anymore. There are 4 things that I think that all of us should focus on, which I am going to talk about, but I did want you to hear that part of the conversation where he tried to kind of outline a little bit more of what he was thinking. So, and some of it, some of it was a little word salad. So, let's see here. You're asking, what is the old normal? The old normal was in the 40s and 50s and 60s, where we were just blatantly discriminated against. And then we ended up getting affirmative action and things like that, where it leveled the playing field. Now, and I did my research about this earlier today, we were able to get into those government jobs. One of the issues we're going to have, ladies, with the government jobs is that 1 in 5 Black people work for the government, and both the federal government and the states, but more so importantly, the federal government, they're bleeding money. So I am very concerned that Black people are either going to have a massive layoff from the government or something like that. We're going to need to be competitive in the private sector. We're going to need to be more competitive. So, yeah, you're right. We're starting businesses, leaving corporate America, even leaving the country. Yeah, we're already making moves. You're absolutely right. But he's also discrimination against a group of Black people. Um, yeah, I mean, what he said wasn't right. What he said wasn't right, but it is a sentiment that a lot of people have, is that they want to judge people on an individual basis. And that's the really big thing that I wanted to kind of pull from this entire sentiment, is that these programs are going away, and now you're going to have to compete on an individual basis. Hello, Sean. If you look back at Black history, Black people have prospered, made many inventions, started businesses, and owned land despite racism and Jim Crow laws. I agree with that. I agree with that. Hello, Awaken a Life. This is playing into their plan of having us completely unemployed by 2050. You mean us giving you guys every handicap possible, even though you don't deserve it? Oh, I don't know if that person has been removed or not, because that's not a fair statement. So, okay. The Ambrosia is saying, my mom works for the government, about to let her know now. AI is here. I'm going to do a show about ChatGPT 4 and what's coming. AI is here. If people work for the government, you better have a plan B. Better have a plan B. The government jobs are going to be laying off people. And 20% of us, we're already underemployed, unemployed. 20% of us work for the government. We are sitting ducks. Alongside the advice on businesses, Black people need to be proactive and challenge any anti-equality opportunity laws. I agree with that. Hey, Victoria. Black people are retiring out of government jobs now. No one is clamoring to hire folks based on color anymore. That's what I've been saying. I think there may be a big layoff, though. I think he's right in using AA in our advantage. Also, the BC needs to reconsider BIPOC. It's other groups of people of color trying to keep Black students out. This issue extends to HBCUs. Look, with regards to all of that, again, I'm trying to get us to move from the macro to the micro. What can you and I do individually with regards to this? Because we can have these high level discussions of what we should do with BIPOC and what we should do with this and what we should do with that. What I really wanted to suggest to everybody from these conversations is, what are you personally going to do? What are you personally going to do? What is your plan for your household? Because so many people are speaking in the macro level, and this guy is telling you, and everyone like him is telling you, we're going to judge you on an individual basis. Well, if we're going to be judged on an individual basis, I want to prep you for how to actually navigate being judged on an individual basis, ladies. That's really what I wanted to do tonight. So I'm going to show one more part of this conversation, and then we're going to move on from this.
So likewise, if you're a white man in America and you're watching the news and you're seeing this thing called CRT, critical race theory, you're seeing DEI and ESG, all three-letter things that have in common trying to reach some kind of equity, racial balancing kind of situation. Now, I'll ask you this question because you maybe you can educate me. My understanding is that they all have at the base of their narrative that white people, mostly white men, have created a situation and continue to perpetuate one that's bad for Black people. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
So what would be the most natural way you would feel if the narrative from the media, from college, from high school, your teachers, your parents, if the media was very, let's say, cohesive, and it said white people are the problem, do you think that would affect how Black people thought about white people?
Yes.
Would it have any effect?
Yes.
And assuming it's a negative effect, would it be reasonable for somebody to say, wait, there's this group of people, I don't have any problem with any individual, and I don't want to change the Constitution, right? Everybody's got to be treated equally. But it's a little bit smarter for me to stay away from a group who has been brainwashed to dislike me exactly. Like me exactly. I'm a rich white guy in America. I'm very much right in the center of those crosshairs. Now, does that mean that I think everybody should avoid their neighbor? No. Does that mean I'm never going to talk to a Black person? No. Does that mean I won't hire Black people? No. Doesn't mean any of that. And also, I assume people know hyperbole when they see it, right? When I say stay away from Black people, anybody who thought that was like a literal, like, yeah, all Black people, if you see one coming, run. Like there's a test I like to give for fake news where you just say the thing that's in the news and then you follow it with the words, really? Really? Do you think that happened? Do you think that I went on a live stream and said, stay away from Black people, every one of them, there's no exceptions, whatever you do, just ask yourself, was there any thinking behind it? Was there maybe a why to that you haven't heard yet? If you heard it in context, would you disagree with it? And the answer is, I haven't seen anybody disagree. So I have seen disagreement. I don't see anybody disagreeing with you should avoid any groups of people who are likely to have negative opinions about you on average. What I saw a lot of disagreement on, and I agree with this criticism, is that the Rasmussen poll that I was looking at, the original thing that started it, said that something like close to half of all Black Americans who were polled were unwilling to say that it's, quote, okay to be white. Now, I heard you criticizing that, and your criticism was right on. The nature of the question is that it will be interpreted differently by people, and maybe they're not even answering the same question as the other people in their minds. So I would agree that the data is not good. But honestly, anybody who's watched me for a while knows that my primary act, at least on social media and live stream, is doubting polls, doubting experts, doubting the science, and doubting any leadership or government person.
Which I wish he had doubted this poll before he said all of the stuff that he said, because it was very hurtful, very harmful, etc. During that section, though, he talked about Black Americans being brainwashed by mass media, by social media, etc. He talked about the fact that rich white man, feels under attack. Now, again, I'm separating the system from just upper middle class white people, right? I think it's important for us to, again, be able to think from a micro point of view, from an individual point of view, how we are going to navigate this. Because people believe that when they see a Black person now, there are white people who believe that when they see a Black person now, there's one of two things happening. Either we don't think it's okay for them to be white, or that we are, as Black women, okay with all the things that are happening in our community. So therefore, they want to judge us on an individual basis. I'm here to say that there's opportunity for you with regards to that. Now, Sun, Venus, Moon made an interesting comment here that I wanted to talk about. She says, exit their system, want their corporate jobs, you play their rules, and it's not to promote you. Okay. Let's take a look at this from just an intellectual point of view. And I love this comment because this is where I was headed with my thoughts. Let's say we all exit their system and we all start businesses. Then what? Because this is often said, but there are a certain number of businesses that we can start where we're able to buy from each other. Let's be real. At some point, if you're braiding hair, the person whose hair you're braiding is ultimately going to be working for somebody else, and most likely that person is going to be white. If you're starting a business, you are, look, I've been a business plan writer for many years, for a decade, and I worked with a lot of white people. What I'm trying to say with this, I know it's triggering for people. I saw a couple of people saying that they're so triggered by this, but it's not practical for us to say we're going to exit and we don't need their corporate jobs and we don't need their money and all of that stuff. It's not practical. I actually feel a little bit of hope knowing that he's going to judge us individually, because I believe any and every Black woman that is on here is dynamic and we can still make it. We can still make it to the upper middle class. What he is saying, what people like him are saying, is that they are going to judge us individually. And if we take the emotion out of this, and I know it's super hard, if we take the emotion out of it and if we just sit back and we say, well, we can judge them individually as well, then we can make some great alliances on an individual basis and get access to jobs, mentorships, schooling for our kids, et cetera, that takes us ultimately to the next level. And that was part of what I wanted to say with regards to this whole thing, is that the tides are turning. And if we're smart, we can play this so right that we can get access to the $68 trillion wealth transfer that is coming. There's going to be property for sale. There's going to be businesses for sale. There's going to be all sorts of opportunities that come from the aging population and the $68 trillion wealth transfer. But guess what we need to have in order to take advantage of that? This is the crux of what I wanted to say. We got to have four things. Somebody put it in here, two of them at least. I'm sorry, I can't find it because you all have so many things you're saying here now. Number one, we have to have technical skills. They call them hard skills. Whatever you are doing, getting really, really good, you want to be at the top 10% of your game. So that way, I've been saying on this channel that you cannot outwork low skills. So ladies, we got to have those technical skills, those hard skills in whatever profession that you're choosing. It needs to be a profession where you are able to make anything, ultimately 150 and above. Whether it's a business, whether it's a job in a business or something, we need to be up there with our technical skills. And entrepreneurship is a skill, ladies. Lead generation is a skill. Closing sales is a skill. Managing the back office operations, raising capital, all these things are skills. So the first thing you need are those technical skills, those hard skills. The second thing you need are your soft skills. Second thing you need are your soft skills. That's your etiquette. I have it written down here so I don't forget any of them. Your communication, both written and verbal. Some of us, not some of us, but some Black people, a lot of Black people write in business email like they're writing on Facebook or TikTok. We got to get out of that. Teamwork, leadership, problem solving, time management. Can you manage your time if you have to work from home and still be effective? Work ethic, attention to detail, adaptability, stress management. Y'all, I've lost 18 pounds since December from getting rid of a lot of stress, but that's another show. Conflict management, creativity, resourcefulness. With my current job that I have now, I said to my boss, I know you're not made of money. So I'm trying to figure out how to do this thing with less money. You know what he said to me? Thank you so much, because so many people just, go with whatever budget they feel they have. Resourcefulness is a great thing for us to bring into the corporate world. Persuasion, open to constructive criticism, and negotiation. Y'all know we did our session on negotiation with Mentor Shelley. So go back and check that out. But you're going to need your soft skills. So number one is technical skills. Number two is soft skills. The third thing that I think, because they're judging us on an individual basis, that we need is networks, multicultural networks of people. We need people on our side. Multiculturally, that includes white people. Oh, you can see the weight loss in my face. Thank you so much. Multicultural, white, East Asian, Indian, African, immigrant African, Caribbean. We need multicultural people around us. When I was applying for jobs, one of the people that I ended up not working for him, but he said, you hang out with me long enough, Cherie, stuff will fall into your lap. My boss today has an excellent real estate deal that he's looking to get funded. If you hang around the right people, part of the $68 trillion wealth transfer is going to come to you. But guess what? And I know this is controversial, but Black women, if you're triggered by what I'm about to say, just sit with it for a second and just think about it. If the person that you're in front of believes that you're going to think that they are racist just because they're having a bad day and they do a microaggression against you, you're not going to be able to build those networks. I know it's an unpopular opinion. That's why I call today's session Unpopular Opinion. There are some people who are racist, and we're going to talk about that. Part of tonight's conversation. That's why I'm going to take my time with it. But we need to have a better filter for distinguishing what is racist from what is somebody just being a jerk to us, and they're a jerk to everybody. We as Black people throw Emmett Till's name out far too much for just stuff that doesn't even have to do with Emmett Till. We throw racism out at a person who's not racist. They either are just having a bad day or they're just a crappy person, period. They're crappy to the Asian person. They're crappy to their kids, their white kids. But we think, oh, well, she's just crappy to us because we're Black. No. And I'm just asking you, if you're triggered by what I'm saying, if you don't believe me, just sit with it for a second and really start observing. Because I'm concerned that Black women, unpopular opinion, Black women individually, you're going to lose people if they think that if they step on your toes, you're going to cry racism. I have to be honest. So, I talked about the first three things. So you need your technical skills, your soft skills, your networks. You want to network with people who are connectors, people who know everybody. I have a couple of those. that I know. I probably could get a meeting with President Biden if I absolutely wanted to. I know I don't have interest in meeting with any senators or anything like that, but I've spent 6 years cultivating the connections in order to do that. I'm going to talk to you about how to do that tonight. The fourth thing that you're going to need is resources. Resources, money, access to capital, housing, your house, things like that. You're going to need resources. So, I don't know. Y'all could be talking very badly about me in here. Let me kind of come up here a little bit and see what you all are saying. You're saying here, truth, you can't afford to be prickly when dealing with other groups of people, and not everything is racially motivated. Stephanie is saying she can't do it. I understand. I don't think that's a good move. I don't think that's a good move. Not getting offended makes getting S done with others all the time. That's true, but I don't think I should move past casual racism. I don't think you should move past casual racism. What I'm asking you to do is to make sure it is casual racism before you throw that word out. Is the person really being racist, or are they just being a jerk to you? Because the way that you handle that is a little bit different. They expose how they really feel about you at some point. Always focusing on race can also seem like a lack of intelligence. Oh, yeah. We have to be able to discern both. And at least on social media, I'm not seeing where people are separating stuff. We are letting social media, when Scott Adams talked about social media and mass media brainwashing us, there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that. Yeah, most white people don't like each other. Or many, I don't say most, many white people, yeah, they'll have another white person that they don't like. It's not just you. There's a woman at the grocery store. I go to the same grocery store pretty much all the time. And I don't know how I always end up in her aisle, but I do. And she doesn't really speak until I say hello. But a couple of times ago when I went to the grocery store, I actually looked at the person in front of me. She didn't speak to them either. I'm like, she's, an elderly woman standing on her feet, doesn't want to be working at the grocery store. But once I say hello to her, she's nice to me. But yeah, you're welcome for the convo. Yeah, I want us to be successful. I really do. You're correct, because we are never allowed to tell the truth about our dehumanizing experiences by hateful whites who hide their white fragility. I will say this. I've had conversations with white people about certain things that have happened in the past. My great-grandmother was born in the early 1900s. I've talked to them about her story. They're empathetic. They really are. They really are. So, all right. Y'all are saying so many things in here. I want to get to the next part of what I have to say, which is all about networking. First thing is technical skills. There is a great short that I found that I thought was just a really cool way for you to figure out how you are going to network for technical skills. You could probably use it for short skills sorry. You can probably use it for soft skills as well, but I like this one specifically for technical skills. So let me start again, and this guy is going to talk here.
In life, there are some shortcuts. So say psychology. What I did was look for the best psychologists in your town, email them politely with context and say, my name's Vin. Look, I'd love to learn from you. I know you've been in this industry for the last 20 years and I've researched you and done my due diligence. You're one of the best. Do you mind if I politely ask, how much do you make a month? I'd like to understand the value of your time. She said she was about $9,000 a month. I'm like, wonderful. Could I pay you $9,000 for a day? And you share with me the most pragmatic lessons you've learned in psychology over the last 20 years for me. So she freaked out. She goes, do you want 2 days? Are you sure? And I was like, no, it's fine. 1 day is fine. I respect your time. 8 hours, please. We'll have a lunch break, but 8 hours. She spent a month and a half preparing for that 1 day. And in that day, she distilled for me liquid gold that took her 20 years to learn. And I've done this with speech pathologists. I've done this with psychologists. I've done this with everyone to do with this. That's also how I built my workshop. I spoke to all these wonderful people, and I hope, what is liquid gold. In life, there are...
I really like that. I really like that idea of finding the best of the best and really being mentored by them. Now, he did a 1 day thing. He had $9,000. If you don't have $9,000, there are a couple of things you could do. We had a session a couple of weeks ago about starting your part-time business in order to pay off debt. Maybe you start your part-time business in order to get access to people. But one-on-one, people will mentor you. One-on-one, people will dump 20 years of everything they know about a topic into you. Oftentimes, even me coming here, I'm sharing 15 years of information that I've gathered from working in corporate America, working in my mother's business, working as a business plan writer, all of the business plans I've done, and at least I can point you in the right direction and say, read this, look over here, things like that. That information that he gave is just a great way for you to increase your technical skills. All of us should aim to be at the top 10% of whatever business category or career that we are in. So if it's in accounting, then really figuring out, let's say taxes, really figuring out how you could be at the top 10%. And sometimes it's the technical things, but sometimes, like I've told you all, it's not the stuff on people's LinkedIn that gets them in the door. Sometimes it's a network that they have. Sometimes it's some network or organization that they belong to. These are the nuggets of gold that we need, ladies, in this new era. These are the nuggets of gold that we need. So let's talk a little bit about other keys to success with regards to networking. Because the truth is, if you don't have a network, if people do not know who you are, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to make it to the next level based on what I'm seeing, based on the brouhaha that Scott Adams started, right? There are 5 groups of people out there, 5 levels, I should say. So let me come over here. And these are the class distinctions and income brackets that are out there. So let's read all of these. This is from poorest to wealthiest. So the working poor, life experience often marked by substandard, unstable, or inconsistent housing. How many of us are seeing this now with Section 8? Underemployed or underpaid, sometimes long-term use of public benefits, little access to higher education, basic living expenses might be impossible or difficult to obtain, debt from predatory lending services like cash advance places, monthly bills or emergencies, chronic lack of health care, food, or other necessities, frequent involuntary moves and chaos and disruption of life, often raised with strong value on resource sharing and taking care of each other, targeted and incarcerated disproportionately in child protective services, vagrancy laws, immigrant enforcement, and money cash bail, intellectual, artistic, and labor contributions frequently stolen, co-opted, or made invisible in dominant society, treated as disposable, conditioned away from participating in the dominant society. Working class. Life experience is often marked by housing, sometimes unstable. Occupation often involves physical labor, service, or care work for upper and middle class people. And this is not just regular physical labor. The blue collar, certified people is different than this. Access to higher education is spotty. A large amount of student debt is common for people who attend four-year universities. Generally living paycheck to paycheck with little to no savings, debt from education, medical bills, and credit cards from day-to-day living expenses or emergencies might include turning to the public or community for safety nets to help ends meet, often raised with strong value on resource sharing and taking care of each other, targeted by the state as huge source of revenue through fines, fees, and cash money bail. Ladies, this also has to do with getting tickets and things like that. We need to move out of the working class. I said it. Treated as replaceable, conditioned to resent the middle class professionals such as bosses and lawyers. Middle class, home ownership or other generally stable housing. Depends on wages and salaries to pay the bills, often jobs with some benefits, some control over your hours and methods of work, social status and social connections to help the next generation. So we're moving up a little bit, ladies. College generally expected, may or may not complete bachelor's degree. Debt is most often in mortgages, education, and medical bills. How many of us are there? Can generally expect to hold stable employment, but status can become precarious when there are unexpected expenses such as high medical bills, loss of pension, or layoffs. Class confusion, especially in association with managerial or upper class people who incorrectly self-identify as middle class. So some of you are upper class and you're incorrectly identifying yourself. Often at risk for state interventions with limited ability to seek legal aid if needed. I'm going to repeat this. Often at low risk for state interventions with limited ability to seek legal aid if needed. Ladies, part of this, I wonder, is the Black Colorado farmers, because they had to call in the NAACP. And I don't want to get too much into it, but there were a lot of things that were happening within that story that I think we just need to be cautious of what we're saying to people, what we're writing, things like that. And we need to have the resources, which is why I want you to get to upper middle class. We need to have the resources that if we need a criminal attorney or a business attorney and they need a retainer, that we're able to pay it. We've got to get out of the middle class. Got to get out of the middle class. My suggestion is that as many of us as possible network with and get to know as many upper class managerial people as possible. The reason I want you to know the upper class and not the ruling class is because ruling class is hard to get to, number one, and that typically is like the system. I'm working on, I already have connections to the upper class, but getting more connections with the upper class, because these are the people that typically hire you. They typically bring you on for multi-million-dollar projects. I'm talking with a couple of people now about affordable housing projects and things like that. The upper class is where it's at. And that's the other part of tonight that I wanted to suggest to you, is that the networking that we need to do should be with the upper class. So their life experience is often marked by owning one or multiple homes. They travel, including international, dependent on salaries, not investments to pay the bills. We want to shift to that though. Mid-level to high-level managerial or professional jobs, education at elite or selective colleges or public universities, often without student loans. Some investment in the stock market, might have enough savings to retire early, might receive or pass down significant inheritances. Social connection, status, and financial knowledge to help the next generation remain financially well off. Generally at low risk for state interventions, often know legal loopholes and can turn to private legal aid as needed, treat it as an expert condition towards comparing up so as to see themselves as not that wealthy. So, and then you have the ruling class up here. The point that I had with this is that we need to network with the upper class. That's my suggestion. We need to become skilled at networking with the upper class. The upper class is focused on their estate planning right now. They're at estate planning seminars. They're focused on getting their trust together. A lot of them are married or are dating for marriage. I do think that we strategically can take the things that Scott Adams said and ask ourselves, okay, how can we use this to our benefit? And I believe it is building a strong network of the upper class. The upper class usually has connections to the owning and ruling class, in case you need it. They have access to some of the best legal minds. They have the resources needed to help us capture some of the $68 trillion wealth transfer that's coming. They can bring opportunities to us. They do give us our jobs. And look, not everybody should be an entrepreneur. So living and being in corporate America can oftentimes be a very smart thing. So here's some thoughts with regards to networking with the upper class. The first thing I suggest is you look for 1 to 2 groups that you can join. Local association, probably at least one, and maybe a national association or something like that. Then when you join that group or association, join a committee. You want a committee based on your strategy. Sometimes you join the membership committee, sometimes you join the annual conference committee. You want to be involved. You want people to actually see you. Because if they see you, they get to know you. If they know you, they get to like you. If they like you, they get to, you get invited to certain things and you get exposure and you are able to actually navigate this new normal that is coming. I honestly believe that. When my mother and I started her bookkeeping business, I started with 2 organizations. I'm telling you, it works. And within 6 months, she was making more money in her business than she was working in corporate America. But we got involved. We showed up to all the happy hours. We showed up to everything. This is how it's going to work, ladies. In order to survive, really thrive, you're going to need a multicultural network. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, as you're talking to people, there's an acronym called FORD. This is the only thing that you may want to take notes on tonight. FORD stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams. Stay away from politics. Stay away from Black Lives Matter. Stay away from religion. Ask people about their family, their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams. That way you get to know them. They can also ask you those things. You are friendly without being friends. You do not tell them your business. However, you are able to get a connection with them and they're able to get a connection with you. So let's say you have a daughter and she does ballet. Talking about the fact that she does ballet, she's going to be, in the Nutcracker or whatever it is. Let them get to know you. It is important that they get to know you and like you. And I know some may be saying, well, what if they're racist? If they're racist, they're not going to converse with you anyway. So it'll be okay. I am asking you to give people the benefit of the doubt, though. We have to be honest that people are going to judge us and prejudge us. I don't personally get offended by that. I'm just like, I'm Cherie, here I am. And within 2 seconds, they know I am fantabulous. And guess what? You can be the same. You can absolutely be the same. They're going to judge you on your etiquette, which is why a part of the soft skills is etiquette, learning the place settings at a formal dinner table and which forks to use and which glasses to use when we're talking about elevating ourselves and networking with upper middle class people. These things are important. There are a lot of YouTube videos that shows you these things. You can take an etiquette class, et cetera, et cetera. But these things count. They really do. Who your spouse is counts. Who your friends are counts. Like all of these things people will look at. If you feel like a person is racist, what should you do? So, number one thing is talk to them about it. So I'll tell you a story. And I wasn't sure if this woman was racist or not, or she just overstepped her boundaries. But a couple of years ago, I was working on a project, multicultural group of people, but there was a white woman who was handling, I'll tell you, she was handling the marketing. I was handling a lot of the financial stuff and things like that. And she started trying to bleed over into the things that I was doing. And I got upset. I really did, because she said something in a group meeting that I did not like. But I took a deep breath. I said, okay, I'm going to deal with this. The next day, I called her one-on-one and I said, what you did was highly disrespectful. I didn't call her racist. I made sure that anything I said to her, I was okay with her repeating, but I was very stern in how, and I had my notes and I'm like, you said this, you did this. I didn't appreciate that. I was hired to do this specific part of the project, and I'm going to ask you to let me do that. Oh, Cherie, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Okay. And guess what? She never traipsed over into my part of the project again. But there are ways to handle it. If you work in a corporation, understand that everything you say, everything you do, everything you write, everything you send in text, everything you send in email can be used against you. Be very cautious of what you say, what you do, and especially what you write and what you put in the voicemail. You can have an honest conversation with somebody without being accusatory and still let them know that, hey, what you've just done was very disrespectful, and I'm just going to ask you not to do it again. And I believe 9 times out of 10, the person will back off. They'll back off. They may even, become friendly to you again, and that's perfectly fine. But there are ways to handle that. The reason I had mentioned the Black Colorado farmers, I wrote it down here, is that in part of the affidavit against her, apparently Nicole Mallory stated that she told the neighbor that you'd better pack for heaven. I don't know if she said it or not. I'm here to say that you have to be very, very careful what you are saying to people in fits of rage and anger, because it does come back. Anything that you put in writing, in an email, in a text message, or you leave in a voicemail can be played in front of a judge and can be used against you. So be cautious, be careful. I would refrain from calling people racist and all of that in emails and even verbally saying it. I would. And I know it's hard. I do. But I suggest you use the racism term very, very sparingly. And that's just me. That's me. That's how I'm navigating. If you get close enough to somebody and they ask you about Black Lives Matter, this is my response. So overall, well, I actually prefer to focus on the lives of Black girls. And did you know that 100,000 of them went missing last year? And they don't get a lot of coverage on the news. So the Black lives that I'm really kind of focused on are the lives of young Black girls and young Black women who go missing 100,000 every year in this country. Person probably is going to have the response of, I didn't even know that. Oh my goodness. Because you'll get some, if you get close enough to a person, you'll get some race questions. And the truth is, if you get close enough to a person, that means that they trust you enough to ask those race questions. And I'm seeing people, or, you need to educate yourself. Well, give them a place to start. Give them a place to look. Give them something to think about. The other thing they may ask you to do is touch your hair. It's your decision if you want them. I've had 2 people ask if they could touch my hair. Both of them, I was fine. They could see the tracks and everything. I didn't really care. You know? You may be the only Black person that they ever feel comfortable enough to ask about touching your hair. So, yeah. Final thing that I will say is I do have a networking playlist. I've added a few additional videos. There's a networking playlist on the channel. I think it is, I think if you want to get to upper middle class, if you want to be upwardly mobile, those 4 things that I said that you're going to need, I don't think you can skip any of them. You're going to need technical skills, you're going to need soft skills, you're going to need networks, and you're going to need resources, because once the networking starts happening, opportunities are going to start coming to you. And if you have the resources, you will be able to get into some really great opportunities for your business, real estate opportunities, buying businesses, all sorts of stuff is going to start coming to you. Yes, Victoria, play chess, not checkers. I remember once during a legal matter, the judge asked me if I thought the defendant's actions were against me were racially motivated. I said, nope, he just dislikes women and you won. Good for you. Good for you. Um, They always do ask that and feel as if it's okay to touch my body as well. I've never had anybody ask to touch my body or anything like that. 2 people asked me about my hair and they felt comfortable. I remember once woman specifically, it took her 3 years, but she asked me about my hair because she touched it. And I just remember her saying, wow, so I don't get easily offended, but I definitely understand if people are like, no, she can't touch my hair. So, um, okay, ladies. So I'm not assuming, Stephanie, that you're low level or that the community is low level. I just was making certain suggestions. So, um, and there are a lot of people who are going off on people in the workplace. So, okay. So that is the show for the day. Um, Dark and Lovely is saying something really great here. Ladies, let's put our focus on the tips in this video and understanding the discrimination laws to use them to our advantage. Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, Ford is great. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, topics for conversations. When you network, y'all are, just stick with those 4 things. You're gonna do super well. So, alrighty then. Well, y'all left a lot in here. I really appreciate everyone being here this evening, and hope I said something tonight that kind of either reinvigorated you or got you to think, or all sorts of stuff. Don't forget to like the video on your way out. And I will be back on probably Saturday for Small Business Saturday. Okay? Thanks, ladies. Take care.